Smartphones tend to follow the same type of formula, but every now and then you get one that breaks away from the pack, and the LG G2 is definitely one of those phones. I'm Andrew with mobileburn.com, here to review the LG G2, available on AT&T and Verizon as well. When you want to talk about the LG G2, a lot of things can jump out at you. The first thing is this really big and beautiful screen. It's a 5.2-inch display, IPS with 1080p resolution. And I gotta say, it's very much one of the best screens out there, if not the best. The benefit is that with IPS, you get a bright display and without having to sacrifice the weird tinting that you get with AMOLED. So there's no tinting when you're browsing in the browser. White actually looks like white as it's intended, and everything looks pretty nice. But one thing that LG really did nice here is that it looks like they did some type of tuning so that even though this is an IPS display, you still get high saturation. So red is really going to be red, orange is really orange, yellow is very yellow. So while an AMOLED screen typically is the one with the high saturation, they did some tuning where the color profile kind of matches what you see elsewhere without those strange tints, and you still get the benefit of the brightness. So it's a very positive display when you talk about. Another thing that jumps out at you, the processor. It's a 2.2 gigahertz processor. It's a Snapdragon 800. Now, obviously, that means this thing is a beast. When you run benchmarks on it, obviously, it's going to blow everything else out of the water. But benchmarks aren't really what matter. That's just more of a way to gauge what you should expect. In terms of actual real-world performance, you're going to see this thing snaps along fairly well, and it's pretty smooth. Not all apps take advantage of a quad-core processor, obviously, but what you will notice is that with the 2 gigs of RAM and that strong processor, things are going to move along very fast. When you're playing games, when you're switching between apps, when you're doing pretty much anything, typically you're not going to have any problems in terms of lag or slowdowns. Now, the thing that jumps out at you most is going to be the back. Obviously, when you look at the device, there are no buttons on the side. It's pretty much free of buttons completely. You've got your micro SIM slot right here, and that's about it. Otherwise, the buttons are controlled on the back. And there are actually two different layouts for the back buttons, depending on which model you get. With the Verizon version, you get pretty much like this type of metallic feel to it, and it's pretty easy. When I originally saw the LG G2, I had my reservations because I'm the type of person who cups his hand like this. When you hold the device, I like to cup my hand when I'm using it. And I thought it would be strange, but over time I came to see that that's not a problem at all. Just moving my index finger over a little bit made it very easy to control it. You can use it when you're taking photos in the camera app. When you use the front-facing camera, you can actually use the back as your own little camera trigger. So you see that? That's pretty cool, isn't it? And I found that to be useful. You can also use that to adjust volume. So you don't have any buttons on the side. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but within a week and a half, I was going about my business. Now, with that said, I actually prefer the button setup on the AT&T version just because it feels a little bit more comfortable to have it. The power button sticks out a little bit more, and there's a difference in terms of texture between the volume buttons and the power button, and it was a little bit easier to manage. With the Verizon version, you had to rely on this little ring. You have to feel it and make sure it has a slightly different texture, so raised a little bit more, but overall, I just felt more comfortable with the AT&T model. Unfortunately, I was not as comfortable with the build material. Now, to be fair, it's plastic. We've seen glossy plastic devices in the past without issue. But more and more, we're getting devices that are different types of polycarbonate, different types of aluminum, and it just feels a lot better when you touch them than when you touch these, and you don't have to deal with fingerprints all the time. I mean, this thing is constantly, even when I wipe my hand away, 2 seconds later, there's a new fingerprint there, and it distracts you from sometimes, and it gets annoying. In terms of the pattern, it has like a glaze on it. It's a very thick gloss, and it's very smooth, but not the most comfortable smooth. It doesn't bother you at first, but over time, it just starts to eat away at you a little bit. There are a couple of other differences between the two models when you look at them. For one, there's obviously different colors and different patterns. This has more of a honeycomb pattern on the Verizon version. And if you opt for Verizon, you'll also get wireless charging. So you can put your device on a compatible charging pad, not have to connect any cables, and it'll start charging right away. So that's one advantage of it. Another thing different is the bottom of the device. Here you have your micro USB port and your headphone jack, and then you have your speaker. The speaker on the Verizon version is very loud. It's not the most crystal clear, but it is a solid in terms of sound quality, and it reaches a decent volume. On the AT&T version, which is also the international model as well, you also have your micro USB charging port and your headphone jack, but you have dual speakers on the back. Actually, not. It's like they're split in two, so it kind of spreads out the sound a little bit. You know, it's not. You have to really be listening to tell the difference, but I think it was more of a distant difference in the amount of volume that it's able to produce. So I felt comfortable with either one. Sound quality was good on both. Aside from that, they're pretty much the same phone. You've got the same battery, which is phenomenal, by the way. This has a 3,000 milliamp battery, and the standby time is ridiculous on here. I think I've had this running probably for several days without even reaching for the cord of this, because I have two of them. I haven't used them both on the same days, so I was just trying to gauge how long the battery can last on standby, and this one has been on standby. I've used it sparingly today for 26 hours, and it's only 64%. So there were some use today, but most of it, it was resting and it was comfortable, and it lasts a very long time. Now, up until now, I haven't mentioned the navigation buttons because they are virtual, which is a very nice sight to see in an Android device these days. But it's not just what you typically expect for multitasking, back, menu, and all that. Of course, there is menu, there is home, there is back. And to multitask, you have to hold down on the home menu to get to where you need to go, swipe something, or just clear everything. Now, what's interesting about this is the way that they went about making the virtual button. So if I go into settings and display, and then I go to front touch buttons, I can actually adjust which buttons appear. So I can have a quick memo button if I want, or I can change the order of the way that things appear, or I can have a notification drawer button. Now this comes in handy because if I need to go to the notification drawer, I could swipe down, but what I need to get to is actually right here, so I did all that extra effort for nothing. Now this is obviously a very small and minor thing, but small and minor things matter. So if I tap that little button right there, I get it down automatically, and I'm able to get quick access to my Google Now. Now, typically, when you want to multitask, you have to hold down on the home button and then choose from the available apps. But there are actually different ways to multitask in the LG G2 software. So let's say I have a few apps open, and then I can hold down and I can do things that way. But no, I want to just bookmark this. So I'll put that to the side. I'm going to open this app. No, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to open this app. I'm going to bookmark it to the side once again. All right. And every time I swipe to the left with three fingers, it kind of puts them and stores them away. So in the event that I open several apps at once, this can be a nice way to filter. So I don't have to hold down on the home button and pick and choose between this long list of apps. All I have to do is swipe to the right with three fingers, and suddenly the tray of the particular apps that I wanted to bookmark are suddenly back. And obviously this is a small change, another one. It's a little bit overkill, but at the same time, it might be something that you might actually find useful just because of the way that it's set up. So it's an easy way to jump in and out of particular apps. And that's kind of the story of the LG G2. There's a lot of different ways to do the same thing. Let me show you another example. If I want to do a note, I could go into Memo. Yeah, that could be the easy way to do it. Or I could go into Notebook. Or I could even go into Task. So I've got three different apps that are kind of performing the same function, and it's kind of unnecessary. The same is true with Internet and Chrome, but that's to be expected because LG wants to include their own Internet app. But ironically, they didn't include it in the Verizon version, which is kind of interesting. Now, going back to my previous theme about what it's like to do multiple things on the device, they pretty much have 3 ways to do everything. So if you want to unlock the phone, you just tap the back button for the power and the lock screen comes up. But you can actually do it from the front as well. Tap twice on screen and the lock screen should appear. This typically works about 90% of the time for me, but there's still that 10% of the time where it doesn't work and it gets annoying. Now, the camera isn't free from being overdone, but you will overlook that because the results that it takes with the 13 megapixel rear camera are actually pretty good. It has optical image stabilization and all the other buzzwords that phone manufacturers are putting in their cameras nowadays. But the software, it takes a little bit of getting used to because when you want to change things, typically you'd have to go into this little settings mode. But once you're in normal, you have to switch between scenes instead of having everything mapped out for you pretty easily. But it is mapped out pretty easily on the AT&T version for some reason. When you go on that one and you want to switch between scenes, you just go into mode and then you have all this myriad of options, but you're typically going to want to keep it on intelligent auto. That's going to be the one that does the best job of auto recognizing the scenes. Sometimes the clouds might be a little too bright and you won't see them, but otherwise it does a good job. And there are a variety of modes that you can choose from to take a picture. Also, if you're taking pictures with the front-facing camera, it'll be able to snap the photo with the rear volume button. So that's something easy to take. You hear that? And snap the photo. Also, when you switch with Beauty Cam, this allows you to have settings optimized to fix your face and enhance your self-portrait, which you can't fix this mug right here. So moving on, obviously there's some differences between the two camera software. I prefer the AT&T version when it comes to the camera software. Now, you've heard me say I prefer the AT&T version more than a couple of times, but there's actually some reasons that you might want to opt to go with the Verizon version. For starters, you have the back that is compatible with wireless charging. If that's something that matters to you, this is an obvious buy. Obviously, if that's something that's not important to you, it's going to be something that you discard completely. But it's going to be a little bit harder to discard the network differences between the two. Depending on where you live, Verizon network might be a lot better, or it might be just a little bit better. But in my area in particular, Verizon pretty much tops things out by a lot, and it's not really that close. So if you are concerned with network performance, most likely you're going to prefer Verizon. But if you're in an area where AT&T is one of the stronger networks out there, has equal coverage, you might want to go and get the AT&T version because the back is going to feel better. The camera software is a little bit better as well, and otherwise these are the same device. So overall, I'd say that the AT&T version might be better if you don't care about wireless charging and network, but otherwise the Verizon version is better. Now, that's within the realm of G2 versus G2. What about all the other devices out there? And that's where things kind of get a little bit muddy. The G2 is a good phone, but honestly, the software just isn't as good as what you find on other devices. I think that LG has made some improvements, but at the same time, there's still a long way to go for them in terms of design, getting rid of some of these ugly icons, tweaking the the media apps a little bit more to make them more presentable and better and more unique and more intuitive. I'm not really feeling it right now. That's another area that they could really improve. But overall, I'd say that this is a very good phone and it has incredible hardware internally. The external aspect of it is less than thrilling. So when it comes down to the final yes or no, should you buy this phone? I'd say that you might want to check out the Galaxy Note 3 first. And if you're not feeling that, this might be what you get. Then I'd say you don't like the HTC One. Well, this is going to be more powerful, but that one has a little bit better of exterior hardware. But I can definitely see the appeal of this device, but at the same time, I can see why a lot of people will be frustrated with it and might opt for something else. Anyway, this is Andrew from mobileburn.com taking a look at the LG G2 available for AT&T and Verizon now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to click the link in the description below so you can see full photos of the images that we took with the camera, as well as see the written review and get some more insight on this device. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the video. Until next time.